I watched very closely your speech yesterday, and you were very, very frank, and you talked about this being literally this death, ideology of death must be stopped. You talked about San Bernardino, you talked about Orlando, you talked about Chattanooga, you talked about Paris, France, Germany, Belgium, all of this terror. That's just from the summer. Is this a war, a clash of civilizations?
Absolutely it is, and we're not taking it to them, and we have to take it to them. You know, I didn't want to go into Iraq. I said I was a civilian, so I would say not too many people cared what I wanted to do, but that was a terrible mistake. Our terrible mistake number two was getting out the way we got out. President Obama, Hillary Clinton, the way they got out was absolutely insane. It'll be talked about for many, many years, and it really led to the formation of ISIS. We have problems in this country. We're letting thousands and thousands of people come into our country. We have no idea who they are, where they come from. There's no paperwork. Nobody knows what they're doing, and they're coming in by the thousands. And Hillary Clinton, it was announced recently that she wants to allow 550% more coming into our country from Syria, from the migration, than Obama's allowing to come in.
You said yesterday, anyone who cannot name our enemy is not fit to lead this country. Anyone who cannot condemn the hatred, the oppression, the violence of radical Islam lacks the moral clarity to serve as our president.
Well, he actually had a speech, and it's so true. It's actually, it's not only true, it's sad, because, I mean, how obvious can it be? You look at what's going on, World Trade Center, you look at San Bernardino, you look at so many different things. You look at Nice just recently. I have friends, they won't go to France anymore. They love France. They love the city of lights, Paris. They love Paris. And I say to them, how was France this summer? Oh, we don't go there anymore. France is no longer France. And we're going to do the same thing to our country, Sean. So we can't allow it to happen. And I have as big a heart as anybody. We take care of people. We'll build safe zones over in Syria. We'll do something. We have to have the Gulf states pay for it, because the Gulf states have made nothing but money.
The refugees, you'll help them. You'll give food, water, medicine, supplies, baby formula. But it'll be a safe zone that's protected and not bring them here.
100%. 100%. And we have to.
Let me ask you this. I know it was deemed controversial when you said that the founder of ISIS is Obama and the co-founder is Hillary. But yesterday you went into a lot of detail. You and I remember debating you because I did support Iraq, but I didn't support leaving early without finishing the job. We had so many Americans bleed and die and risk their lives for Mosul, Baghdad, Fallujah, Ramadi, and Tikrit. They won those cities.
Right.
And you talked about, even though you were opposed to it, you were opposed to leaving.
Well, look, I said one thing right from the beginning. I wanted to get out. We should have never been there, and I wanted to get out, and I've been against it ever since. I mean, you can look back to 2004, 2003. In fact, on Neil Cavuto's show, before the war started, I said, let's not do it. We have other things we have to do, including fix our economy, which was a mess, okay, to put it mildly. But the way we got out was ridiculous. But I've been saying something ever since I've known you. Keep the oil. Have I said that?
Yes.
Keep the oil. Keep the oil. And I said, when we went in, you know, the old days, to the victor belong the spoils. I don't call it a victory. It's no victory. But certainly militarily, we wiped them out. But I said, keep the oil. And take the money, and some of it give to the families of the soldiers who died, give it to the wounded warriors, give it to the people that have been hurt so badly in that war. And it would be, by the way, that would be such a small part of the money, and the rest we use to pay ourselves.
Well, it becomes the lifeblood of how they fight terror now.
Right.
It's funding them.
What I'm saying is keep the oil. Now, if they would have done that, there would be no ISIS. I said keep the oil. And I think most of the audience has heard me say 200 times. I mean, every time practically somebody is. So I wanted to get out, but I wanted to keep the oil. So by nature, that means you're staying in because you're going to have to guard the oil, et cetera, et cetera. But that oil is very prized oil, believe me. We have the same problem in Libya right now. We did the stupid attacks on Libya, and we got nothing out of it, and ISIS has taken over the oil, and it's some of the finest oil in the world.
You said it's time for a new approach, but you're also against sending in ground troops. And this enemy is different from any other enemy. And you mentioned our history of defeating fascism and Nazism and communism and Imperial Japan, and you talked all about that. How do you defeat ISIS if you don't have ground troops? So
when I was young and went to school, I had always heard we never lost this country. We never lost a war. You know, World War I, World War II, we just didn't lose wars. And since then, I mean, when you think of it, you look at Vietnam, you look at this mess that we're in right now, all of the money spent on this, I mean, so sad. Trillions of dollars. I used to say $2 trillion in Iraq, but that was years ago. I mean, I've been saying that for so long. Nobody even knows what it is. In the meantime, our country's going to hell. Our infrastructure is terrible. Our roads, our bridges, our tunnels, our schools, our hospitals, we're becoming like a third world country. We're spending our money over there. With all of that being said, you have an enemy that wants to do serious harm to us, okay, beyond what anyone's ever seen. This is like medieval times.
You know what I'd like, one question I'd like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama asked? I've seen the beheading videos. Have any of you taken the time? It is the embodiment of evil in our time. I don't know if Hillary or Obama's ever watched it. Have you watched those videos?
I chose not to, but, you know, we all understood what took place. And these were great young people. And not only our people, they're doing it to their own people, they're doing it to Christians. If you're a Christian in the Middle East and they have you, it's very likely that's going to happen. The point is, they want to do serious harm. We have to take them out. We have to take them out very, very swiftly and viciously if necessary.
Now, if there's no ground troops, though, you did say a couple other things. You said the era of nation building is over, and it's going to come to a quick end, and you're saying it'll come to a quick end. That will mean bombing at a very high level. And every time that happens, you know what the media is going to do is they're going to find the one area where there is collateral damage, which sadly happens in every war. We've been a compassionate nation. How do you do it? Avoid collateral damage and win.
Right. General Flynn and other of the generals, these are great people. And I ask them all the time, if you were given your head, because right now they're fighting a politically correct war, if you were given your head, you go in, you got to get them out, how long would it take? I'll tell you what, they are telling me they could do the job very, very rapidly. Now, very rapidly is longer than you would like, but they could get the job done and get it done with precision and get it done. We have no choice, Sean. We have no choice. We have to take them out.
All right, stay right there. We're just getting things started. Now, we will have much more as we continue with Donald Trump right after the break. Also tonight, you'll meet victims of radical Islamic terror attacks, their family members, as we continue. Hannity from Milwaukee and the Pabst Theater. Straight ahead.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Kelly Wright. Good evening. President Obama canceling a planned meeting with new Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. It comes after Duterte hurled insults against President Obama a day ahead of their scheduled gathering in Laos. Duterte has been under intense global scrutiny since more than 2,000 suspected drug dealers and users have been killed since he took office. That's an issue President Obama had planned to bring up during the now canceled meeting. U.S. conservative activist Phyllis Schlafly has died. Schlafly, who was considered a founding mother of the modern U.S. conservative movement, died in her home in St. Louis. She was known for defeating the Equal Rights Amendment in the 1970s and for founding the Eagle Forum political group. Phyllis Schlafly, was 92 years old. That's a look at news. I'm Kelly Wright. Now back to Hannity.
When I looked back, I saw Jimmy. He was there. He was there on the floor.
She says, I saw two sisters and one brother from Poland who were mourning the death of their two other siblings. The youngest was crying, and the other two just didn't know how to react.
Like a priest, it's really to touch the very deep identity of the French people, and that's why it was really a very big shock for everybody.
I feel guilty about screaming about my legs in pain, because I could feel nothing, like the other 49 who weren't so lucky to feel this pain of mine. The guilt of being alive is heavy.
Just a few of the victims of terror. We continue from Milwaukee for the full hour with Donald Trump as we talk about protecting the homeland. And joining us now, we have victims of terror to tell their story. Joining us here, Karen McWaters, her husband Kevin. And Karen, you lost your leg in the Boston bombing.
I did.
Tell us your story.
I went to see my husband Kevin run, and we got a nice spot right at the finish line. I was with a dear friend, Crystal, and we were all having a great time. The marathon's always a fun day and lots of celebration and fun. And we were at the site of the first bombing. So when the first bomb went off, when I lost my leg, and actually I didn't lose it right away, but I hurt my leg, and Crystal died there, and then we were awake to hear the second bombing, and then after that it was just chaos. It was a close friend, yes.
What do you think when you heard Mr. Trump's speech, you hear a president that can't say radical Islamic terror?
It's really upsetting. I don't think it's helpful. I think if we don't speak honestly and clearly about what's happening, that we can't solve the issue. And I think that he is so concerned that Muslims are all going to be targeted, or I'm assuming he thinks that. But I lost my leg. I don't blame all Muslims because I lost my leg. I understand the difference between radicalized people and people who are of peace.
No, Donald Trump, who's sitting right here, talked about extreme vetting of people that come from countries that practice Sharia, which is the antithesis of our own Constitution. Is that something that you think this country, what would you like to tell them?
Well, we're just allowing people into our country that some are going to be a problem. And we have enough problems in our country right now, and you people are really proof positive. What you've gone through, it's unimaginable. I watched the Boston bombing so many times on television, how somebody could do that, how they got them on tape. It was genius police work, how they got them to start off with, but you know how they caught them. But when you see them walking along like they haven't got a problem in the world, and they're looking to do mass destruction. And when I see that, I want to do something about it. I want to do something about it.
Dorothy Woods. This guy is a very close friend now of mine, and she's become a close friend. This is Chris Tanto Paranto. He is one of the heroes of Benghazi. Dorothy's husband, Ty Woods, was also one of the heroes. You remember, sure, Mr. Trump, that they were given a stand-down order. Sure. Yeah. They all risked their careers, and they said, we're not standing down when Americans are under fire, while Hillary Clinton was debating whether to ask the Libyan government permission and whether or not they could go in uniform. You lost your husband that day, and your husband went to protect people that he knew were under assault at that compound. And he will tell you, and others that I have interviewed, that your husband saved a lot of people's lives.
He did. Really, I'm here this evening because of Benghazi. And as a victim, there was lack, under Hillary Clinton, the State Department, there was a lack of security planning and decision-making up to and during that night. The Obama administration lacked strategic action because they felt like there wasn't enough time to help them. Americans died. My husband died saving American lives. We're at war against Islamic, radical Islam, here and abroad. So, we have men and women out there in dangerous places serving our country, and they don't have confidence that we're going to see them or that we're going to save them.
I want to remind the audience, though, and Chris, you can talk to this, because your husband was a hero. Your husband defied orders, risked his entire career. You did the same thing. You were told to stand down, correct?
Yeah, and Ty is a hero. He is a hero.
He is a hero. That's right. But here's what we've now learned since there were 600 separate requests for security that were denied before, while Great Britain and the Red Cross left, because things were so bad.
Remember them pulling out.
And then during the attack, there were multiple requests. This was all being seen in live video. And then afterwards, You were in Germany, you told me that they said this was a spontaneous demonstration.
First thing I saw, and I told people I would turn on the TV, and I saw Susan Rice and her on TV saying it was due to some video and some protest. And I'll be honest, I didn't get angry. I turned the TV off, and because of all the things that I've seen over those years of deploying under the Obama administration, I turned it off. I just said par for the course. I went back to bed. Yeah. So it was almost like I expected to see them start to cover it up, and then it just steamrolled from there.
Unbelievable. What would you like to tell Mr. Trump about what needs to change?
You know, I believe in the vetting process. I do. Now, the terrorists, and I've been deploying for 10 years, the terrorists overseas utilize our strengths, which are compassion and empathy, against us.
True.
That's what they're doing right now. So I do agree that vetting is necessary. I also agree that and when you speak of the Muslim community, you're right, not all Muslims are bad, but the Muslim community in America, they are Americans because they're here. They need to start speaking out publicly and condemning. So
let me bring in,
I do believe that.
Kimberly Munley. Kimberly, how many times were you shot at Fort Hood, which, by the way, was workplace violence and not terrorism? How many times were you shot?
3 times.
3 times. And also we have Howard Ray, and you were a survivor of Fort Hood.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell us your stories, Kimberly.
As you may remember, November 5th, 2009, there was, I got the call as shots fired, multiple injuries, and arriving on scene, engaged the shooter, shot him twice. He still shot me 3 times.
Did you hear him yell Allahu Akbar?
I did not personally. Where he started the massacre at inside the building when I engaged him was outside of the building. I never spoke a word to him. He never spoke a word to me. After I went down, my weapon malfunctioned from the impact of falling, and he walked up to me and put his gun to my head and pulled his trigger, and his malfunctioned as well.
And you had to get a new... Wow. Wow. What's your story?
The day of November 5th, 2009, I had showed up to the SRP site and Soldier Readiness Processing Station. And I was actually there for an appointment in a building just adjacent to where the shooting initially took place. I heard the shots ring out, and I was like, well, this isn't right. And so took action to make sure that I got all of my fellow soldiers and coworkers and group facilitator out of the building. It was quite chaotic. What ended up happening was a woman ended up freezing out the door on the way out, and I realized that it's from experience that she froze up. She was lost. I grabbed her. We run out back, and there was someone that yelled, "He's coming around! He's coming around!" And so that day I was in civilian clothes. I reached back for my pistol. I had very good opportunity and time to take care of the situation. Looked down into an empty holster, only to tell the woman who is now in total tears and crying as she should because it was such a terrifying situation where I said, we got to go. And so we ended up running across the backside of the parking lot. I put myself in front of her. He came around the corner and raised his gun, and I said, well, here it is. And ultimately, I ended up unscathed, but subsequently got her to safety. I was given an award for saving the lives of my colleagues that day.
These are the victims of real-life terror that is hurting our homeland. San Bernardino, Orlando, Chattanooga, abroad, France, Germany, Belgium, all of Europe. The impact immigration has on this, vetting refugees, is it possible? We want to thank our guests for being here. Thank you so much for telling and sharing your stories. When we come back, we'll talk to Mr. Trump about how to keep the homeland safe. Straight ahead. With Donald Trump for the entire hour, and we're talking about protecting the homeland, defeating ISIS, winning this war on terror. These are the real victims. They don't get Boston happens. we move on. Chattanooga happens, we move on. The people in Orlando are still living in the aftermath of what happened at that nightclub.
Right. And there'll be more. Look, we can be nice about it. We can say it's never going to happen again. There'll be more. And what we're doing by allowing thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people in here that we just don't know anything about, it's going to happen again because there's something wrong. And until we figure it out, we have to stop it. And that was really a large part of the speech that I just...
I want to get into that. I want to get into the extreme vetting in a minute. You're right where... Oh, don't worry. I know how to do my job. It's all right. I want to get into this because this is a really important question. You talked about countries that live under Sharia and about people that want to come here from countries. If you grow up, for example, in Saudi Arabia, right, which gave the Clinton Foundation up to $25 million, the Clinton Library, $10 million. Okay, and I can't find any instances where Hillary criticized them. Women can't drive. Women are told how to dress. Women are told if they can go to school or if they can go to work. We know that gays and lesbians in Saudi Arabia can get the death penalty. You can't build a Jewish temple. There's a guy over here with a sign that says Jews for Trump. And you can't build a Christian church. Would you ever take money from a country that treats gays, lesbians, Jews, and Christians that way?
Well, you don't want to do that.
And women?
If they knew about it, that would be one thing, and I assume they knew about it, big league, but certainly they know about it now, so maybe they can give the money back. I've actually called.
Wait a minute, they knew about it because that has been Saudi Arabia's practice for years.
But you know what? Let's give them the benefit of a doubt. They certainly knew about it.
You're going to give Hillary the benefit of the doubt? I'm not. Okay, go ahead.
But you know what? You know what?
Yeah.
They should give the money back. And I've been saying this for a long time. They should give the money
Should they give the money back? Yeah. What does it say, though? I guess there's your answer there. What does it say, though? She claims to be the champion of women's rights and gay and lesbian rights and freedom of thought and religion.
Well, you know, look, there's a whole big phony deal going on. And I have to say, when we were talking about Benghazi, the ad, I don't know if everybody remembers it. I remember it at 3 o'clock in the morning, essentially, who do you want to be at that phone at 3 o'clock in the morning? We have some people. Oh, I'll be up. I will tell you that. She was not too effective.
Well,
you know the amazing thing, because that was a big ad and everybody made a big deal, and she said she'd be there at 3 o'clock. She wasn't there, but
this was 4 in the afternoon.
But she had a certain friend that was contacting her routinely all day and all week and all the time, routinely, and you had 600 messages trying to get through, different forms of message, and not one of those messages got through.
What is extreme vetting, and what does that mean? And how do you, for example, if somebody grows up in a country where the Clintons take all their money from, if they grow up there and they think that men can tell women how to dress and they can't drive and they can't go to school and you can't build a church or a temple, and you grow up there and then you want to come to America, how do you possibly vet what's in their heart?
Right. Well, let me just tell you, you get very smart people, and there are those people, and they're very good at understanding what's going on. But beyond that, you use social media, because a lot of these people, I mean, they're better at social media than we are. ISIS, if you look at what ISIS is doing with social, they're recruiting over the internet. And I also said we have to end that. We have to knock it out. We have to, you know, some people would say, oh, that's a terrible thing. We have to end that. But John, when you look at what's going on with the internet and how ISIS is using the internet and what they're doing to us, and then you have people in our country that say, oh, you can't do that. That's doing something so bad to us. Here we are, people, they want to blow us up. We have to be very careful. We have to take them out very swiftly, because weapons are getting stronger and stronger, meaner and meaner, and believe me, they want to come over here. Now, again, I was one that didn't want to go over there. But now you have no chance, really have no choice. Now, one thing, when Obama announced when he's going out, and all they did is they sat back. I couldn't believe it. When I was watching this conference, and he was talking about getting out, And when they were getting out, I'm saying I can't believe that he would say it. And even Hillary Clinton, when she talks about the different things she wants to, why can't we just be quiet and do the job? Why can't we be quiet?
And you said you don't want to telegraph what...
I don't want to telegraph.
You don't want to telegraph.
No,
right,
I don't want to
but
telegraph.
when you talk about extreme vetting, and you did talk about in the Cold War, we did have ideological test screening, and this goes into your thinking. And how do you stop? How do you possibly... know if somebody grows up under Sharia and these extreme viewpoints that are the antithesis of our constitutional...
So when you look at San Bernardino, right, which was a horror show, she came in, she probably radicalized the husband. What a couple that was. That was a real beauty. Mm-hmm. So if they would have looked at social media, they would have seen that this woman was
radicalized.
We didn't look at social media. They just came in. They actually killed people that gave them a baby shower, a baby party. They had a child. The 14 people that were killed, they were at the party honoring the birth of their baby, and then they went in and they shot them all, killed them all. Look, there's something going on. It's a sick deal. It's beyond just normal.
Let me follow up on
Sean, this is a sick deal.
Sick ideology. This is an advancement of a caliphate that wants worldwide either convert or die. Here's my question then. You pointed out that this guy, the father of this Orlando shooter, and he was smiling, as you said, right. And Hillary, and you talked about her stupidity and her weaknesses. And he has explained his radical views. What do we do when we find somebody that has extreme views? Do we throw them the hell out?
I'd throw him out. If you look at him, I'd throw him out. You know? I looked at him, and you look, he's smiling.
Yeah.
He had the red cap on. I thought it was one of my caps. I said, no, make America great again. I don't think so. But he has the red cap. He's got a big smile on his face during the whole thing. He obviously liked what he heard, from her. Look, we have to be so tough and so smart and so vigilant. And frankly, the Muslims have to help us because they see what's going on in their community. We don't see it. They have to help us. And if they're not going to help us, they're to blame also. But in San Bernardino, they saw bombs laying around the apartment.
They didn't want to say anything.
People saw it, and they called it racial profiling. We didn't want to call in because of racial profiling. In other words, a lawyer got to them and said, you got a problem here. You knew this was say racial profiling. But look, we have, whether it's racial profiling or politically correct, we better get smart. We are letting tens of thousands of people into our country. We don't know what the hell we're doing.
And we can keep people like that safe. We got to take a break. We'll come back. We have more with Donald Trump. We're at the Pabst Theater. We're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That and more as Hannity continues. Straight ahead. No such thing as radical Islamic terrorism. By the way, they're the JV team, and of course they are contained and they do not represent an existential threat to the United States of America. Those are the words of President Obama and candidate Hillary Clinton. We continue now with Donald Trump. We're in Milwaukee at the Pabst Theater, and also joining us is the author of the New York Times bestseller, Defeating Jihad, the Winnable War. Dr. Gorka is with us. He's the professor of strategy and irregular warfare at the Institute of World Politics at Marine University. You know, you just heard JV team, they're contained, they're not an existential threat. We see the victims that we interviewed earlier. What does the president and Hillary not understand about this evil in our time?
Sean, they don't understand the reality. The war is real and the war is here. The war is here. The victims are here. This is a threat that is real and is escalating every day. ISIS makes between $2 and $4 million every 24 hours. It has captured territory larger than the UK with 6 million people living on their territory and has recruited 80,000 jihadis.
And every 84 hours there's another attack.
Outside of you, so there's this hellhole in Iraq and Syria. Outside of the battle zone, every 84 hours since June there's been a jihadi attack somewhere.
Okay, Donald Trump, I know he gets beat up by the media, but he says he's going to have extreme vetting and he's going to build a wall. Who's going to pay for it? Okay.
That's, by the way, that's a little bit of a different subject, but it's...
But no, it's actually related, though, isn't it?
It's related. A little different, but it's related.
You know, will those policies that he's advocating versus what we hear from them, will it keep... let me backtrack. There's 1,000 FBI investigations ongoing now about ISIS in America in all 50 states, including Wisconsin. Will the policies Mr. Trump is advocating keep everybody here and across the country safer, in your professional opinion?
Absolutely. Let's take politics. Let's take politics out of the equation. We have killed or arrested 108 people linked to ISIS in the last 2 years in America. Linked to ISIS, not Al-Qaeda and ISIS, just ISIS. If you don't have borders, you don't have security.
Is there anything, you heard his speech, and you can talk directly, is there anything else you would add so we can keep the homeland safe? And if you say we can defeat ISIS, can we defeat it, as Mr. Trump is saying, without ground troops?
We don't have to be the face of this war. It has to be our allies in the region. This is why Mr. Trump's speech was essential. It has to be our Muslim buddies, the Jordanians who've suffered so much, the Egyptians, absolutely.
The Saudis.
We'll talk about that later, okay? It has to be the Jordanians, the Egyptians, who are the face of this war. Yeah. We can provide the training, the special forces advisors, but we don't need to be the face of this war. And the most important thing that Mr. Trump said, this is an ideological war like the Cold War. We have got to destroy the brand of jihad.
How dangerous is the Syrian refugees? And is it a better idea? And I'm talking as if you're not here. Hi.
Okay.
No, but 550% increase that Hillary wants in Syrian refugees. You're offering to provide a safe zone, protected militarily.
Paid for by somebody else.
Paid for by other people. By the way, Obama did accumulate more debt than every other president before him combined.
Doubled it. Doubled it.
So, but you'd also provide food, water, medicine, supplies, cots, baby formula.
Right.
That sounds pretty liberal and compassionate.
In Syria.
Yeah.
They have plenty of land, that I can tell you, but in Syria. And there's plenty of money. Because you look at the Gulf states, you look at the kind of money they have, nobody's seen money like that, and they're not doing anything.
All right, last question. James Comey, James Clapper, General John Allen, Michael Steinbeck, the assistant FBI director, the House Homeland Security secretary, have all warned us, and Brennan, our CIA director, that ISIS will infiltrate this refugee population. So is Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama gambling with the lives of these American people by taking them in? Yes or no?
If Hillary Clinton becomes the commander-in-chief and continues the policies of this administration, American lives will be endangered.
So
it is that simple.
Is it fair to say they will have blood on their hands if refugees kill Americans?
They already do. All
right, we're going to have to break. Dr. Gorka, good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll have more with Donald Trump and his plan to take out ISIS and radical extremists, protecting the homeland. Special edition of Hannity continues from Milwaukee. And welcome back to Hannity as we continue with Donald Trump. And we are from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Mr. Trump, all right. I know you get advice for a lot of people. It probably drives you crazy at this point. Everybody's got advice for you?
Right, everybody.
All right. One of the things, I watched your speech and I watched what you did. You laid out everything wrong that you felt Hillary and Obama have done. You laid out your solutions to how you would handle it differently. And the only thing that I know that friends of mine, I was at a party the other night, I know you know Mr. Trump, we love him. Please tell him to only talk about Hillary and Obama. That's... Well, wait a minute. Do you all agree with that? All right. Because in 84 days we're electing a president, and they're the only two people that matter. What do you say to those that say don't talk about those things?
I really do, mostly. But, you know, a lot of times the mainstream media, they put it on like if I'm talking about anything else, they'll put that on. She is so protected. They are so protecting her. She hasn't had a news conference in like 250 days.
I think she's in the witness protection program.
Well, she's being protected by the government, certainly. I mean, how she got away with emails is beyond anything I've ever seen in justice. But I have to say, she's being protected, and she's being protected by the media. When I say something about her, for instance, if I speak for an hour and I talk about her for half an hour, 45 minutes, nothing gets on television. They'll put something else on, but they won't.
But if you mention the New York Times or Mr. Khan or the judge,
other things get on television.
Do you think it's
very
better
rarely
not to talk
does it get
about
on.
that?
Look, let me just tell you, she's totally protected. I've never seen anything like it.
By the media.
And she doesn't really do that much. She'll give a speech on teleprompter, and then she'll disappear. I don't know. She goes home. She goes home and goes to sleep. I think she sleeps.
Yeah.
But
takes
look,
weekends
look,
off.
I guess she takes a lot of weekends off. She takes a lot of time off. And, you know, that's frankly, it's really not fair.
You know, I look at, I've asked you a lot about the economy. We got the lowest labor participation rate since the 70s.
Right.
Lowest home ownership rate in 51 years. The worst recovery since the 40s. We got 12 million more Americans on food stamps. 58% increase in the black community on food stamps. We've got 8 million to 10 million more people in poverty. My question is this. Forgetting the media, I have interviewed you a lot. How certain does the wall get built? How certain does Obamacare get repealed?
You can never say 100%, but I'm telling you pretty close to 100% the wall gets built. We need it. You know, the Border Patrol agents, have endorsed me, along with Sheriff Joe and everyone else.
But I'm running out of time. So when you say
it gets built,
and you will rebuild the military, that's a promise.
We have to rebuild. It's all depleted.
And you will send education back to the states.
100%.
And you will make America energy independent. Can you do it in 4 years?
It could be done faster than that. We have regulations that are absolutely destroying our energy.
And will you appoint originalist justices like Scalia?
Yeah, I've already announced who the 11 could be. I mean, I have 11 people from which to pick. And I want to get as close to Scalia as I can.
And you will repeal Obamacare and protect our Second Amendment rights.
Obamacare is dying of its own volition. If you look at what's going on with Obamacare, you saw what happened with Aetna.
And those are promises you're telling the people of Wisconsin.
100%. I'm telling you, too.
Mr. Trump, thank you for being with us. All right, unfortunately, that's all the time we have left this evening. As always, thank you for being with us. We will see you back here tomorrow night. Thank you, Wisconsin. Thank you, Milwaukee.